Let's roll out the 2014 football signing day class, beginning with the high school players on the offensive side of the ball. We'll break all of this down by position, alphabetically by last names. That sound okay, Coach?
Alphabetically by last name. Okay, I'm ready.
Let's do it. Let's kick it off with tight end Matt Bushman from Tucson, Arizona.
Tight end, so Matt Bushman is a phenomenal player from Tucson. Will serve his mission first. He's big, he's fast, he's tall. At one point was one of, if not the nation's leading tight end by rankings or production. And so Matt gives us a chance to be either a big wide receiver that's difficult to handle or a small tight end. We have a position where a tight end can be flexed in space, which we love, and we want someone that's more capable. Kind of the Dennis Pitta, Johnny Harleen mode, and we like that. If you put him backside, matched up on a corner as a wideout, just sheer jumping ability gives you a great chance.
Three-star recruit by ESPN.com. A lot of schools wanted him number 10 rated overall by Scout.com. Now to the wide receiver core, where you said there was a huge emphasis. Bringing a guy that has a dad that knows a thing or two about BYU football, TREY from Abilene, Texas.
Yeah, Trey will also, well, he originally was going to serve his mission first, but now he'll be coming first. We love him in the slot, J.D. Falslev type. We love him on fly sweeps. We love him with the ball in his hands, possible punt returner as well. He's elusive. As you watch him, he can make people miss. He's not going to run over you with the size, but he's going to be hard to get his hands on, and very explosive. We want defenses to have to expand and deepen to take more pressure off Taysom and Jamal. So
Taysom certainly is a happy camper today, and that's just the start of the receiving group.
You know, we actually we asked Taysom what he wanted, and then we recruited toward it. That's not true, but that's just.
Very good. I like that honesty. On the offensive line, some holes to fill. You had some concerns there last year. Austin Chambers comes to BYU out of Shawnee Mission, Kansas.
Yeah, Austin will serve a mission first. 4-year player at our camp. We know exactly what we're getting. You're getting a tough, physical football player that is kind of Kansas farm boy with a bad attitude when he gets on the football field.
I like that.
So we love his size. We love his physical play. But more importantly, we love who he is. As you watch him on the basketball court, light on his feet, runs up and down, and we like him a lot.
Let's keep it on the offensive line and go with Chandon Herring, another guy from Arizona, from Gilbert.
So Chandon, love his frame. Chandon will also serve a mission first, and so great size, great mobility. But if you watch him practice, he's tenacious. We love his work ethic. His best years are all ahead of him. And so when you see Chandon, we see a chance to be a dominant offensive tackle, not just an average offensive tackle. And at BYU, especially with what we're doing offensively, we think he'll play a significant role.
So you have Chandon there. TEJAN KOROMA is an interesting guy because he's not as tall as some of the other offensive linemen, but boy, is he an athlete. He comes from Allen, Texas.
Yeah, TEJAN, great story. And so African descent, Sierra Leone. Mom is unbelievably nice lady. One of my favorite home visits. But TEJAN gives us great athleticism at the center spot. He plays and he plays and he plays, and then he'll run downfield and hit you and knock you down. And you get up, he'll hit you and knock you down again. We love leadership and we love the athleticism at the center spot by TEJAN.
Was it the home cooking you received that made it your favorite
It was
visit?
One of the best meals I've had in my entire recruiting career.
That's a big part of it.
How can you overlook that?
Here's a recap of this 5 high school offensive signees. Coach, what excites you most about this group right here?
Potential. Most of these players as high school players will be what they'll end up being after missions. When you consider TREY as coming first, we lose JD. We wanted someone else as similar as we could get in terms of body type and ability, and TREY gives us something like that.
Now we segue to the defensive side of the ball. Coach Mendenhall should be able to offer some insight here. And here are the high school defensive signees. We go with the defensive line and Zach DAWE from nearby Pleasant Grove, Utah.
Zach is one of the toughest people and toughest players that I've met. I love his hard work. He is one of the best wrestlers in all of the country. Actually chose BYU football versus Penn State wrestling. All-American wrestler, one of the best in the country, either first or second. Love his work ethic, love his physical play, and in 3-4 defense, he reminds me a lot of Brett Kiesel in terms of just down in and down out, mauling people.
You would imagine those wrestling moves come in.
Great leverage.
Yes, absolutely.
And wrestlers are the toughest workers that I've ever met.
TEANCUM FUGA from Huntington Beach, California is the next member of the defensive line.
Romney FUGA, a familiar name to all the BYU family. One of the best nose tackles that BYU has had and one of my favorite people of all time. Tico, as younger brother, I'm expecting to follow in his brother's footsteps in coming to BYU, but he plays differently. He's lighter on his feet. He's a little bit shorter, but more athletic. Romney doesn't say so, but Tico does. But really a nice addition in 3-4 defense. Will probably play nose, but could play end also. You've certainly widened the recruiting net, and Jatarius goalie is evidence of that from Hoover, Alabama. One of my favorite stories. Jatarius comes. He didn't know much about us, nor did we know much about him. I see him Casey Hampton-like from the Pittsburgh Steelers at one point. Giant guy. Really light on his feet, super strong. We see him playing nose in the 3-4, and to play dominant 3-4 defense, you need a giant, physical, tough guy that loves football. Came all the way from Alabama, crossed all those states to BYU, and loves the values. Said he really enjoyed his experience at the Marriott Center on Saturday night as well, watching the basketball team. Okay, URIAH LEIATAUA, straight out of Compton, California. Might have been my favorite home visit of all time. Their family is so faithful and so education-oriented. Sisters have graduate degrees, and he brings passion, he brings athleticism. He's a fantastic student. Was committed to Stanford, and as of last night, battling like crazy to decide which place do I go, which place do I go. Had such a great visit and loves BYU. Chose us ultimately. Over Stanford. That's correct. That's an interesting decision. Were there any final words of encouragement from you and the coaching staff? Actually, URIAH called me last night asking for advice, and so I was then not in the head coach at BYU position. I was just in the now kind of mentor. This is what I would think. Wow. This is the way to view it. And he's very mature, really leadership-oriented, one of the most impressive young men, whether he's an athlete or not, that I've met. The defensive line talent coming in is really uncanny, and it continues when we go back to the Midwest, Topeka, Kansas, for Earl Mariner. Love Earl Mariner. Earl is one of those players that actually grew up in the same home as Travis Tuiloma, who played for us before. And so what Earl gives us a chance, he can be a two-way player. We don't know whether we're going to use him as a defensive player or an offensive player yet, but he can do both. He came to our camp and we fell in love with the guy by his work ethic, by his physical play, and his desire truly to be at BYU. 6'3", maybe 310 pounds. How much, when you recruit a player, goes into looking at their versatility on both sides of the ball? I love it because ultimately, if a defensive player with a defensive mindset and defensive athleticism ends up being an offensive player, we've just upgraded. And so as much as possible, I like the idea of defensive players in high school becoming offensive linemen. I think it actually makes us more athletic and more competitive. Isaiah NACUA is the next defensive lineman that we will profile right here from Provo, Utah. Isaiah is a great story. Super fast, super athletic. He committed to us as a junior, and then changed his mind and had some ideas of, now, do I really want BYU? And that's something that I believe I can do. Then after going back and forth a number of times, ultimately came to us and said, I want to be here. He has some academic work to do, and he's going to serve his mission first. By then, I believe he'll absolutely be ready and qualified, and we'll be anxious to have him to play with his brother, which I think is great for their family. Bronco, reloading in the linebacking core was another major point of emphasis for your team, and here is linebacker Tyler Cook out of Murrieta, California. Love Tyler. Dad is a firefighter, one of the most fierce, competitive, physical, loving football, fast-playing guys that I've ever seen. About 16 offers is what he had, and he knows we play great defense. He knows we love 3-4 defense. He knows I love outside linebackers, and it was just check, check, check. Colby Clausen mentality with a lot higher recruitment. Montana, California is becoming quite a hot spot for your recruiting efforts. You bring in another linebacker from there, SIONE TAKITAKI. SIONE, just when you see him, the amount of energy that he plays with, your eyes are just drawn to him when he plays. He smiles if you even actually think about talking about football. That's what his passion is. He's violent on the field. He's physical. He's fun-loving, and if he has a choice between going around you or through you, he's going to go through you. And we really like what he's going to bring at inside backer, kind of Ogletree mentality with a bigger body. And that's a pretty fun or scary combination, whichever way you want to look at it. I was going to say that's great if he plays for your team and not so great if he plays against you. That's right. Linebacker Fred Warner is a big-time recruit, 4-star guy from San Marcos, California. He, too, had kind of a last-minute decision to make. USC and Washington, right to the very end, would not and couldn't see him going to BYU over those two places. Fred is the best player in that entire part of the state. will be a fantastic outside backer, super athletic, super fast, a fantastic young man. His mom, Laura, did a fantastic job raising him. He has a younger brother who is potentially a BYU player as well. His versatility, he'll remind folks right away from Kyle. Similar style of play, similar disruptive nature, different person, but I think they'll draw that comparison pretty quickly. When will he potentially see the field for the first time? Don't know, but he's coming right away out of high school, and so we want to find a role for as many freshmen as we can that are qualified right from the beginning, and that could very well happen. Into the secondary now, defensive back KAVIKA FONUA from Syracuse, Utah. Love KAVIKA, one of the highest spark ratings in all of the country in terms of size to speed to power. Again, played running back in high school and defensive back. We're going to play him in the secondary, similar to where Polamalu plays for the Steelers. That's kind of his spot. He loves football, and he's tough, and he's physical, and he's hardworking. And so for us, Daniel Sorensen played that spot, and that's going to be a similar spot to where KAVIKA will end up. Now, KAVIKA, being a hometown guy and playing for Syracuse, that's a newer program in the state, but he excelled under that program. How much does it matter when you look at the Utah schools to how well those programs do in terms of recruiting? It matters a lot how well they do, but when they come to camp, we've turned them inside and out, and usually players like KAVIKA, everyone else in-state wants him, which was the case, and he chose BYU. Isaiah KAUFUSI is the next defensive back that we're going to break down, Coach. He's from Salt Lake City. So Isaiah KAUFUSI, the KAUFUSI name just means great football. So Isaiah is actually going to come in as an outside linebacker, very similar to Brian Keel. Fast, athletic, can cover the field, runs so well that he might be considered as a safety, but will come in first at outside backer. His dad, Jeff, is the brother of Steve, our defensive line coach, who Jeff played at the University of Utah. Isaiah traveled the state, was sought after by everyone in state. Great athleticism, fantastic kid. Is a perfect fit for our defense in terms of athleticism and wanting to hit somebody. Yeah, you answered my question. At 6'2", 175, maybe he can slide into that safety role. Possibly. His dad is big. All the KAUFUSIs are big, but he runs well enough, even though we think first it's outside backer. If he even gets bigger and can keep running the way he runs, he might be a great safety for us down the road. Michael Shelton is a mid-year enrollee out of Raleigh, North Carolina, so he's not necessarily a new name today, but certainly one that you're excited about. Yeah, so Michael Shelton's super athletic. He reminds me a lot of Brian Logan. Michael comes all the way from North Carolina to our camp. We loved him in camp. We had him cover anyone that even thought they could catch the ball, and he just kept stepping up, and they couldn't catch it on him. He's not afraid. He's quick. He's athletic. And he wanted to be at BYU. And that combination, especially as a corner, those are hard to find. And so we really liked what we've seen so far out of Michael. Here are the high school defensive signees, Coach. As you take a look, and I'm gathering from your body language that you're ready to go to work right now with this crew. I like these guys a lot. They're tough, they're physical, and they love football. And the rest of their time at BYU, they love that environment also. But when they step across the white line, they kind of transform. And so do I, a little bit. Bronco Mendenhall breaking it down on BYUtv. Coming up, who did BYU bring in to fill the void left by Cody Hoffman? And wait until you see the class of returned missionaries BYU has back and ready to go for 2014. It just gets better.